Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. We begin in New York, where world leaders have been addressing the United Nations General Assembly all week. Issues confronting the Middle East dominated Thursday's UNGA debate. VOA's Margaret Besheer has more from the United Nations.
In July of last year, 6 world powers and Iran agreed to a deal to curb Iran's nuclear program. At the UN, Iran's president urged the United States to step up implementation of its obligations under the agreement, which is known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action.
Compliance with the JCPOA on the part of the United States in the past several months represents a flawed approach that should be rectified forthwith.
In part, Tehran has been frustrated that foreign banks have shied away from dealing with the country. Later, at a news conference, Rouhani criticized a proposal by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry to ground all warplanes in Syria in order to get humanitarian aid in and rebuild confidence among the many actors.
We must all focus on getting this aid to those who need it, which has nothing to do with flights, grounding flights. If you ground flights, you are aiding the terrorists, whether you like it or not.
Rouhani said the terrorists are well equipped and only lack aircraft, so if Syrian and international warplanes are grounded, it would help the terrorists. On the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas warned that Israel's continued settlement expansion is jeopardizing any chance of a two-state solution.
The settlements are illegal in every aspect and any manifestation. We will therefore continue to exert all efforts for the adoption of a Security Council resolution on the settlements, and we hope that no one will cast a veto.
But Israel's leader was defiant.
Given its history of hostility towards the UN, or towards Israel rather, does anyone really believe that Israel will let the UN determine our security and our vital national interests? We will not accept any attempt by the UN to dictate terms to Israel.
Meanwhile, Iraq's leader said his government is making progress in its battle with the self-proclaimed Islamic State.
A year ago, I stood here as there was large areas of Iraq's territory was occupied by the terrorist organization Daesh, ISIL. Today, we stand again at the same place to declare before you that Iraq is being liberated and that Iraqis have been able to liberate most of their land and towns thanks to their unity and determination.
A major offensive to liberate the northern city of Mosul from the terrorists is expected in the coming months.
Well, now for the latest from the UN General Assembly, VOA's United Nations correspondent Margaret Besheer joins us live from New York. Margaret, these issues have been discussed in different forums for the past year. Has discussing them at the UNGA given a kind of a promise of progress here?
Well, I tell you, Vincent, the toughest issue they've been dealing with this week is Syria, trying to salvage this cessation of hostilities there. U.S. and Russia talking about it, but it's just not going well. We saw both the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov, his Russian counterpart, this morning. No progress so far today. We're expecting Mr. Lavrov to give his speech in the General Assembly in about 15 minutes. We'll see if he gives any indications. He's also supposed to meet with the media today, so perhaps we'll have a bit better indication of where things stand. But it's really proving a difficult impasse for the two sides to get through to really kind of revive this failing ceasefire.
And now we know there have been all sorts of leaders, too many leaders there. What are the other issues that may have grabbed people's attention around the UNGA?
Well, I'll tell you one that I was surprised didn't grab their attention, and that is the war in Yemen. There's been so much talk about Syria, but in Yemen, 10,000 people have died. There was a very serious airstrike, Saudi-led airstrike on Wednesday. Several dozen people were killed. Half the country is on the verge of famine, and yet we really haven't heard too much about it here at this General Assembly. Today, though, Africa's issues did get some attention. There was a high-level meeting on Mali, another one on the Central African Republic, a humanitarian meeting on the Lake Chad region. So Africa is getting some attention today at the UN.
And as the UNGA kind of concludes in the coming days, what can we expect? Quickly.
Lots of talk. We'll see if it materializes into any changes on the ground for any of the world's crises.
Well, we'll watch and see. Margaret, thank you very much always for being there for us.